Bună ziua, doamnelor și domnilor! Invitatul meu de astăzi este cineastul de origine româno-americană, John Florescu. Thank you and welcome to Via Cluj TV.
Thank you, very nice to be here.
We are discussing about a film, Regele Mihai I, Drumul către casă. How the idea of this film was born?
Well, basically, in 2016, I did a show called The King's War, which is about the king's life from birth all the way until his departure to the West. And we're going through a lot of research. We have a lot of historians that are guiding us. We had John Florescu, Matei Cazacu. We have people in the archives. We have people in overseas archives. We have people in video archives. And so we gathered a lot of information. And while I was preparing this, I was wondering what happened to his life after he left Romania, because most of his life was outside of Romania, because he left when he was 22, 23 years old in the early days of 1948. And so it worked in the back of my mind, and I said, you know, I think it's an interesting story. I don't know too much about it. So what I did is I got in touch with those people who were close to the king during his time in Switzerland and England and also in Romania. And I asked them, anybody who knew about the king's life, and I asked them to sit down and explain what happened in this journey from the moment he left the train station in Sinaia.
In January 1948.
48, and not knowing, as he said to me, whether that train was going to Switzerland or whether it could be going to Russia, or going to see what happened, where his ancestors themselves or his relatives were killed. So, so that journey begins actually. The film, there's a review of his early life, so you understand and appreciate the richness and the drama of his early life to appreciate the exile years. And so it's about the exile years.
And also it's about the return of the king in Romania or not?
Yes, I mean, that's a very important point. I mean, in a way, the return of the king is a moment of redemption. He was able to help his country. He was able to help in the way he could through other royal families and using his influence when Romania was trying to get into NATO and Romania was trying to get into the EU. And obviously, being related to many families in Europe, he could be of use. And his manner and his style and his prestige as an individual, I think, helped enormously. I mean, we worked out, according to John Florescu and other historians, that his activity in World War II probably shortened the war by 60 days and innumerable lives.
At least, yeah.
At least. So it was a significant role he played in the wider context of Europe. And so I thought that the story that goes to Europe with the king in Europe, which is a difficult story in many ways, was worth getting into.
It's an amazing life, and I believe that King Michael was very, very strong, because when he tried first time to came back in Romania, he was received with a lot of hostility from public government, of course, at that time. But after that, he managed to help Romania to use his prestige to open the doors not only to European monarchies, but also to other world leaders, because also King Michael of Romania was decorated by United States for his role in the Second World War, and King Michael had an amazing image.
Yes, he won the citation from President Truman, which was a very rare citation. You cite his work after the war, where he went to visit with Ronald Reagan in California. He had an interesting life in exile. I think it was a difficult life, and we show it. It was difficult because he was attacked from his own country by a new regime. He was in a new world that was making accommodations between the United States and Moscow in the realpolitik, the kind of Kissingerian view of the world, where the superpowers should talk, so they didn't really want a lot of people trying to destabilize or undermine that new superpower relationship. What the king was trying to do with his effort and his sincerity was trying to keep the hope alive of a free Romania. And one question that always seemed to come up, whether he actually wanted to come back to Romania permanently or not, we get into that. We speak about how the CIA also tried to induce him to join in an activity that was set to destabilize the communist regimes. It was run by a young man by the name of Frank Wisner, who became head of the CIA. And I went to see Frank's son in New York, Frank Jr., who gave us some interesting documents. And also, I think it was difficult from a practical point of view because you had to live, you had to support a family, and you had 5 children. And there were many families of the different monarchies throughout this region that were in Paris or London or New York City. And so I think there were moments of great difficulty that we discovered in talking to people who were close to him. There were moments of hope. There were moments of redemption in a way. And at the end of his life, he was able to give back to his country those things that he was unable to do easily during many years of exile.
Permanently, King Michael was the leader of the Romanian democratic exile because all the Romanian leaders, democratic leaders, not fascist from Mișcarea Legionară, consider King Michael in Romania it's factorul constituțional, the main element of the constitutional tradition of Romania. Even when Romanian exile was divided, for example, between General Nicolae Rădescu, the former Prime Minister of Romania, and Constantin Vișoianu, who became the President of Romanian National Council in the United States, King Michael remained the leader of this exile. How do you see his role in history as in this condition as the leader of the exile?
Well, he was the leader of the exile, but I think he realized that all these competing factors tied his hands and made him a bit cautious in dealing with them. We noticed that in the respect to the CIA operation, some people were in favor of it. Some people who were actually working for the king were also on the payroll of the CIA, which surprised us. So I think, given his life of being by having his allies turn into not allies. We think of Yalta as an example, and I spoke to Prince Philip about this at Buckingham Palace, about, how did it feel to be split like that. I think it made him a very cautious man and suspect of power, including the United States. I mean, the United States was there at Roosevelt and signed off on this accord, and the king didn't even know about it, he told me, until much later, when he was in London in those years when it had effectively been decided. But he said nobody would tell me the truth. Even when he went to see Churchill, he was unclear about the point. So my view is, going to your point about how do you feel as the leader of I think he obviously believed in what he was trying to do. He set out to do it almost immediately when he went to exile. Then he went to the United States and came to try to get the support of the United States. The embrace was maybe too close for him at that time, and he wanted to keep a certain independence. So I also think his lawyer said to me, he had a lawyer in Geneva, he said the king kept a home in Switzerland because you never know what happens in the world, like he is very suspicious of Russia. Now, it's quite remarkable how history doesn't always repeat itself perfectly, but there's sort of cycles that reappear remarkably in what we've experienced now. But his record is stellar. I mean, he was recognized for his tremendous courage. It's a story of courage, and in fact, this film has aired on the first one in King Michael, and the second one is being moving around the world in any number of countries. Because it's not a story necessarily of just a Romanian king, it's a story of character, and the character he showed in defending his interest loyally and his nation's interest right through the end.
And King Michael tried to, and he succeeded to rebuild the role of the Romanian royal family into today's Romanian society, because he started to organize events like garden party each 10th of May. He succeeded to have this day, the day of the royalty,
10th,
yeah,
yeah.
of the dynasty, like an official celebration of the Romanian state. And today it's officially
Yeah.
the Independence Day of Romania. Also, he offered high patronage to different kind of institutions, like, for example, Romanian Olympic Committee, and he restored the system of orders and medals of decoration to offer and to stimulate the Romanian elites. And he created this kind of role, which is very, very similar to the role played by reigning royal families in England, for
Yeah.
example, and this is amazing into a
Yeah.
republic.
I think, I asked him, what you think the monarchy could do in modern society, in these republics that exist now. We're part of EU, constitutions are different. What role do you think the king could play in such a society? And he said, we're born into our position. We're not elected. It's the happenstance of life that we are born as a king, or I am. And he said that in such a capacity, he has no need to establish his prestige. He has no need to financially he's well taken care of to a certain extent, not extravagant, but he has what he needs to live. And he's not connected to any political party on one side or the other. He's not involved in the short-term politics. He is involved in a long-term commitment to his country, much like the Queen of England, as you used in a parallel. And so he said, I saw my role in a way as a juge arbitre, like a judge in a football game. And when everybody's fighting, I blow the whistle, and I ask you to come to the table, and I ask you to sort out and resolve your issues. Now, I would say that if you take the post-'89 period, it's been a period of continued struggle between political parties. And I remember when the Pope came to the current Pope, I think it was the current Pope who
Francis,
came, and he had all the presidents there. And he was sort of lecturing them a little bit. He was saying that, listen, you are all responsible for the bien-être, for the well-being of your nation since 1989, and still you have poverty, still you have unequal distribution of wealth, still you have social issues. And I noticed that they all had their heads kind of tilted down, like no one was fighting back, no one was, of course he was the Pope, but still you felt like the Pope was giving him a lesson. And the essence of that lesson was a little bit like what the king was saying. We don't gain anything or lose anything necessarily from whatever your machinations are going on. But we are asking you to address the interests of the Romanian people. And I think the king, in many ways, you cited some other examples of merits and awards. He gave me one very kindly. And it has a value to a nation. And you see in England with the Queen, and hopefully King Charles will continue somewhat in the footsteps of his mother, but she did it admirably well. And look at the attention, the respect she had. And she shared another thing with the king. I think the king was a modest man and a humble man, in my view. I didn't know him well, but I'd had a chance to meet him a few times. And he always kept a certain modesty. Like the Queen kept a certain modesty and an ability to admit when she made an error in her judgment, even over the death of Princess Diana. Many people said that she did not understand the mood of the nation. She did not understand how her people had become attracted to Diana for all her goods and bad. And she went on television to admit it, to say it right to the nation. And I think that the king also had that element of humility, and it gives him not weakness, it gives him power, and it gives him strength, and it gives him respect. And I think that's a very unique quality that the king had.
How do you see the role of the royal family of Romania today in the Romanian society?
Well, I think they can play a very good role. Princess Margaret, of course, is active in all kinds of humanitarian aspects. When I was up on the border in the Ukraine, going into the Ukraine on behalf of a U.S. government to see what the conditions were. I was happy to see the Red Cross, the Romanian Red Cross was there. So I think they're applying themselves in many, many ways to good offices, helping the older people. I know that, you know, there's activity for the older people, there's scholarships, and there's also work of a humanitarian nature. So I have nothing but admiration for everything they put it. I know the family has a little bit of a dispute within the family, but I think I'd be happy to see them working together for the benefit of the vision of King Michael.
I am a monarchist, but I want to ask you, how do you see the future of Romania? Could be the monarchy restored in Romania?
I think it's, you know, first of all, within the Romanian royal family, I'd welcome to see a harmony come back. That would be the best thing. In fact, I invited both to appear on my show. And I think that the country is small enough, and the desires of the royal family have always been wedded to the interest of the country, whoever they may be, the sisters and so forth and so on. And I don't know if the mood of the young people today, you know, Romania's generations are changing much like the Western generations and maybe like the English generations today. But I do think that the Romanian people feel, and I've seen this traveling the country, Claudia, I've been all over maybe to 50 towns and cities talking about these films, and I see an appreciation from more from younger people. In fact, we were lucky to win an award at Regenov and here at the TIFF, a People's Choice Award. And the person who runs the Regenov Festival, the historical festival, told me that he noticed that there are more and more young people who were voting in favor in this competition, young people who were voting in favor of things. So that means they want heroes. That means they want people they can look up to. And we have that in the United States. We have the presidents we look up to and we admire and we emulate. I'm from Massachusetts, where the Kennedys were from. I worked for Senator Kennedy. So one wants to go to people that lead selflessly and lead in the interest of their country, and I think the royal family, which definitely does that.
That's my opinion too. In October, Her Majesty Margareta, Queen of Romania, because Her Majesty preferred to use this title, Custodian of the Romanian Royal Crown, but for me is the legitimate Queen of Romania, was in Cluj, was received with great honors at Agricultural Science University, where Her Majesty received the title of Doctor Honoris Causa, and also other members of the royal family of Romania were at Babeș University, to the Order of Malta Relief Service, because they have a kindergarten for kids with disabilities, and everywhere the Romanian royal family was welcomed, was very warm welcome in Cluj, in Câmpia Turzii, in Aiud, in Teiuș, in Alba Iulia. Was a trip with the royal train in Transylvania, and I had the opportunity to go together with the royal family also in the southern part of Romania in 10th of May, from Bucharest to Galați, and everywhere they were welcomed. Thousands of people were together in the train stations of Brăila, Ploiești, Buzău, to welcome the royal family. It was amazing.
Amazing, that's remarkable.
No one was hostile.
I'm not surprised, I'm not surprised. Why would they be hostile? They shouldn't be hostile, they should be grateful. I mean...
Yeah, but you know, 25 years ago, or more than 25 years ago, was a huge hostility in Romanian society because of the communist propaganda, because of the lies told by the communists.
I remember when we did the first film on King Michael, and I was showing it to Pro TV, to the executive board before it aired to comment on the draft. And someone said, listen, Mr. Florescu, I think you've got something wrong. You said that King Michael was responsible for the fall of Antonescu. And the head of the station looked at me like, is my person correct? Is this true that you got that fact wrong? I said, listen, in all due respect, I am a son of a historian. I'm not a historian, but I'm a son of a historian. I am extremely closely advised by very good historians, not just in Romania, but outside Romania. And I have that from the king's lips. I have it from reading books. But I also am going to Moscow next week, and I'm going to be meeting with the Kremlin's historians, and we're going to discuss the coup in 1944. And people said, okay, and I went back to my office, and I turned to one of my assistants. I said, go to the school across the street, and they have a library, it's a high school, and get all the history books from 1947 to 1992, and color in anything that they say about the king, okay, and particularly in respect to 44. Well, there's your answer. There are untruths left and right. So Romanians never really learned their history, and that was a lot of people who are not learning history, and a lot of people who are in kind of big positions, important positions. So I think that what's important, and Bank of Transylvania has been fantastically supportive of me in my historical films. I'm not here to push one side or the other. I was raised in the United States and educated in England and in the United States. I was raised as a journalist with the Associated Press and the Boston Globe. So I have an even-handed thing. So I'm not trying to elevate something. I'm just trying to put the facts on the table as I see them and be fair-minded about it. And you would have to see that they were dealt, as you'd say in English, a very bad hand. The royal family was disparaged in ways that were unfair, inaccurate, and created, as you said, a wave of misunderstanding.
But it's very, very important to have this kind of education, because projecting this screening this film, it's a kind of educational act. That's why you started this program, this national tour.
Correct.
To promote the movie. What can you tell us about this national tour?
Well, it began with King Michael, and we went to various cities. And then when we did Queen Marie in 2018, I said, let's follow the footsteps of Queen Marie. Now, I knew that the film had very good ratings. I got it, people were startled, both at the TV station, Pro TV, and also on the History Channel. The ratings we set for the last one that is airing on October 31st, or just aired, it set a rating for the highest viewing history ever had. So I wanted to see how people react, how people in the theater react, because I'm watching on television, I'm talking to TV people and looking at data and information. But I wanted to go and see how the people would react. And I remember being in Sinaia, a grandmother walking out afterwards with a granddaughter and saying, you see what I told you about Queen Marie? You see what she did for this country? And she was in tears. And I think I've seen that in Petroșani, I've seen it in Zalău, I've seen it in Constanța, in Iași just 3 weeks ago. The mayor invited me there. So I think people very much embrace these heroes. And I think the more you go into the countryside, the more you see it. And it's wonderful to see.
Do you plan to go also in Republic of Moldova? Because
yes.
Okay.
Yes, we intend to. We are trying to organize it right now. We usually go to the mayors of these cities because they get the city hall moving forward. But often the Rotarian groups and other groups have been our host. And I think, of course, Moldova is a very important place to go to. So we do plan to go to Chișinău.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much also for your participation to this interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A great pleasure. Thank you.
Prieteni, vă mulțumesc și vouă. Ne vedem pe net.
Sănătatea comunităților și a mediului depinde de branșarea și racordarea a cât mai mulți dintre dumneavoastră la rețelele nou construite sau modernizate prin acest program.